The year is 1987, and we open on a violent bank robbery, followed by an exciting car chase and shootout between the LAPD and a seemingly normal man in a trench coat. Detective Tom Beck is assigned to the case and is soon joined by FBI agent Lloyd Gallagher, whose strange behavior hints at something otherworldly. The truth unravels as it's revealed that the parasitic alien creature in the body-hopping host is using humans to commit murders, crimes, and political intrigue. Blending police procedural with alien invasion horror, The Hidden is fast-paced, gritty, and surprisingly emotional. It explores themes of identity, possession, justice, wrapped up in 80s action, practical effects, and a pulsating punk rock soundtrack. Praised for its originality and McLaughlin's offbeat performance, this film remains a sleeper hit that has gained a devoted cult following over the decades. This week on Back to the Balcony, we cover The Hidden. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, two titans of cinematic review. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always captivating. Your hosts Antonio of the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and Justin Henson of the Movie Wire are here to take you back to the balcony. And cult-worthy it is. This is totally my jam. One of my USA Up All Night favorites as a kid. And one of the best things about this show, man, is not going and watching the Siskel and Ebert critiques of some of these more obscure movies that we talk about until we're actually ready to record. And I was so surprised by this one, but we'll get back to that towards the end of the episode. Before I ask you if you've seen this movie before or if you even liked it, I just got to say that this is like the third time I've spoken about this film on a podcast. Two other times I've spoken about it on other people's podcasts. They'd never seen it, never heard of it. And it was like I was baptizing them in the waters of The Hidden. I had new Hidden fans that just could not believe that they made it through 4 decades on this planet having not seen this film. So with that, had you seen it, and what were your thoughts?
So I'm going to be part of that pool where I've never seen it before. And you know what? I liked it. I liked it a lot because, you know what? This was a refreshing take of the buddy cop at a subtle level where we had all these cliches. We have all these gimmicks. It almost brought me back to Alien Nation to an extent where it has that subtle chemistry of partnership. So to me, I think this one gradually had me engaged where it grabs you from the opening scene on where it's going to go. And it doesn't outdo itself. It doesn't even try to outdo itself. It stays consistent with what it wants to be. And I actually really, really enjoyed this movie.
It's such a gem. And what I love the most about it is that on paper, it shouldn't be as good as it is, right? Like, it is kind of written as a schlocky sci-fi film. The dialogue isn't particularly fantastic. What makes this movie work is that the director takes it 100% serious, and both of our lead stars are not acting like they would be in a schlocky sci-fi body horror movie. Michael Nouri, who I've only seen him in a few things like Flashdance, right? Like, he's a B-movie actor of the 80s. I think he was miscast in so many things, but this is the movie that I've always known him by, and he's such a good cop. I'd say in the same realm as the cops you would see on CSI or NCIS, like the Mark Harmons. He's a procedural dude, and that's how he's playing it in this film. And so when you bring the sci-fi horror element to it, it doesn't shake him. He actually is surprised as if he really would be if there was an alien presence, parasitic slug going from body to body. And then Kyle MacLachlan just nails it perfectly, just to the point where I feel like he's really just doing his Twin Peaks role. And it makes me wonder, I was like, okay, so does that character have a parasite in him and we just don't know it, you know? But again, it's just his particular style of acting that works so well in this, where he's not overplaying it, he's not underplaying it, he's not playing it like an android, he's almost playing it like, okay, this is my first time on planet Earth. I'm learning new things, but I still have a mission to accomplish. And the chemistry between them, like you said, that buddy cop chemistry totally works. And since you mentioned Alien Nation, now we're going to have to do it eventually on the show, you know?
100%. And I think what really works here is the fact that you can come in at any point in this movie and it feels like a police movie. It feels like an investigation. It doesn't feel like a focal point of the aliens unless we have the villain or the practical effects that come into play. There are elements here that really do show almost a subtle raw cop. I don't want to even call it buddy comedy because it's an investigation where we have intrigue. The investigation is leading us and engaging us, not necessarily the chemistry. That's just an added element. But this is something that is treated seriously. And like you said, on paper, this could have been completely different, but we're
Right.
presented with something that is treated with all seriousness. The performances are serious. McLaughlin treats his character as he's just another cop with an added element of an alien investigating something separate. So I think that's what the secret sauce is here. I mean, it's not without its flaws. I mean,
Oh, yeah. There's flaws.
there's flaws. I mean, when it comes to even the sound editing, I mean, there was some rolling of the eyes from me where we have that record store where he's beating the record owner, which sounds like he's beating him with a Nerf bat. But you know what? It still all works. It has those flaws that reminisce with B movie quality, but the performances make this movie. It's the driver to this on what the direction of where everybody wants to go. So up until we get to the final climax, that's where we go to the exclamation point of this is a little outlandish, is a little ridiculous, but you know what? It's earned that point. It's the journey we go on with the investigation of these characters. And I think that's what is the most memorable point of it. And I know this movie wanted to have that B movie quality by the time we get to the climax of setting fire to the villain and all that kind of jazz, but I didn't care about that. I am going to remember the journey that we went on with these characters and the subtleness to it.
Right, like in the time that you have movies like 48 Hours, movies like Lethal Weapon, which came out the same year. I've got more to say about that in a second. What I think is really cool about this, Tarantino was not even in the picture yet, right? Like he was working in the video store at the time this came out. But there's something very Tarantino-esque about this movie if you think about it in the sense of it's submerged in pop culture references. When you're watching the movie right from the start, that first guy robbing the bank, you may as well think is the Terminator. He's Terminator adjacent. He's wearing a trench coat, he's got the glasses, he's got the little kind of flat top like the Terminator would. So your mind instantly goes there, right? But then you have the Ridley Scott alien aesthetic. Okay, we have a parasite that enters a human body. It doesn't necessarily chest burst, but instead it possesses it, very much like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So you've got another reference in there. The thing even inhabits a dog later in the movie, which I thought was a great B-movie trashy scene, but because of the way it's played, it works. I mean, the dog can open doors. It turns doorknobs and walks right out, right? But that kind of to me is a reference to The Thing. I feel like the filmmaker Jack Shoulder, who made the very underrated and misunderstood Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the one that's very homoerotic in its terms and is kind of like a hit and miss with certain people and certain audiences. But it plays very much like this, where there's humor, but there's also a very strong cultural relevance of what's going on here. The idea of 80s excess, that this creature, the dark parasite, craves joy, craves excitement, craves excess, cocaine, fast cars. It is like an analogy for 80s consumption, just like RoboCop was, right? And then the Kyle MacLachlan character, who is like the light side of the alien parasite, represents more of like, let's say, a socialized approach to his methods, a more hippie, almost like flower power, light at the end of the tunnel type aesthetic. It's good versus dark. It's light versus evil. but the way that it plays as a metaphor for pop culture and for what was going on in the 80s, much like RoboCop, like I said, it's submerged in pop culture references of other movies that came out at the time. And I think that's why people like our age love it, because we know what to expect from what's happening. We know what the movie's trying to do.
Well, the soundtrack is fantastic, especially in the first half. It's an amazing soundtrack. And I love that you brought up the Terminator because I got that same feeling, but different from you. When I got that feeling, it was when he was walking to the car dealership and he was confronting the owner, the bodyguard, who wants to spend a lot of money on this car, but for some reason they want to kick him out. I don't know. That one's kind of stupid to me, but at the same time, it did give off that vibe. But I think what this movie succeeds in is really having a pulse. It doesn't just show; it gradually builds every moment, every situational moment. It doesn't have to show off every situation that we have with the alien. It's a heartbeat. And as we continuously go, it goes to that build that I spoke to before of that kind of cliche B movie feel of the creature coming out at the climax of the final moments. But that's where it's earned. It's earned that moment to be a little bit cliche and a little bit stupid, if I want to say that. But it's a good stupid because it go ahead.
It's self-aware
It's
in its stupidity.
Absolutely. Because this is where a lot of movies of this kind of formula make mistakes is it wants to show off right away. Every moment it has to take advantage of every single minute, every single second. This one, you can literally feel the pulse as we continue this investigation, this journey of our two characters. It doesn't feel the need to show off anything because we get the concept. We get what these two are going through and what they're leading to and what it's going to build to. In our minds, we know what the ending's going to be. And I think this is where the movie really does succeed, is showing us, you know what, you've gone along with us with this journey. Here's what it's going to be. We're going to set fire to this thing. We're going to have these cool gizmos to kind of just kill it with a space laser, whatever it may be. And that's just the exclamation mark on what this movie really earned, and without showing off during every single moment and every single second. So this one, I think, really does earn the right to be its moment of fame in the last 5-10 minutes of ridiculousness.
Well, I mean, like I was already talking about Tarantino already. You can't tell me that Tarantino didn't watch this movie and saw Kyle MacLachlan take out that dude with a flamethrower, and he's like, you know what? I need to use that in a movie later. I need to take out the enemy with a flamethrower for like 5 minutes. It's beautiful. Okay, so one of the things that I love about this, which we'll probably speak about in another movie down the line, is the talent behind the host bodies of this alien parasite. As it jumps from the banker to the hospital guy to Claudia Christian, who is like an 80s crush of mine, right? To a dog, to the police chief. And as it goes from body to body, each of these actors handle that personality so well where they feel like there is a coherent performance amongst them, but yet the parasite in its, let's say, practical effect creature form has no personality. It's just a monster. It doesn't speak. It doesn't emote. All of the performance of this creature comes through these actors who do an amazing job. Claudia Christian, who probably has the most screen time with the alien inside her. I mean, that's where it really gets B-movie trashy, right? She's wearing that super low-cut dress that's also like backless, buttless too. Great 80s outfit. But she's shooting machine guns. She's jumping off buildings. Like, it really brings that kind of trashy grindhouse second act to it. And then it goes into, let's say, a John Carpenter Assault on Precinct 13 vibe when they're having the shootout in the jailhouse. But there's also this real poignant moment of like loss and redemption and reincarnation. The movie plays on so many levels of emotion and trash. And like we've both said, it's hard to pull off all of those things in one package.
It really is. And I think the star of the movie to me is William Boyett, who really does have that subtle nod to the camera. It's almost like this is the introduction to the creature in its true form. We have temptation of the music, temptation of the fast cars, the women, This is where it gets really taboo and focused and zeroed in on the villainous of this character, where he can kill a couple people without thought with that stern look, steal a Ferrari, and go down the street trying to pick up women. And this is what I did appreciate about it is it doesn't go cliche where women get in a Ferrari and then we have a killing spree. So this one doesn't focus on the kills per se. There's so much more filler of importance to take these characters on as we get into who this alien is. Yes, he is living the sexual desire of a male, an alien in a male body. He wants that fast adrenaline rush of the 80s. So
He wants to be the
he
president.
wants to be the president. It's all the hopes and dreams of an alien of planet Earth. So, but it never goes sideways. It is so straightforward. And and this is what the surprising thing with us is we mentally are trained to say it's going to go this route. He's going to be president. He's going to take these women. He's going to take what he wants as an alien down to Earth to conquer. But it really never goes that route. It tricks the audience. And that's where the entertainment value comes in is we don't know where this movie's going because it's never really that cliche. It doesn't take all those moments from previous movies and say, I'm going to take a hooker, I'm going to take a stripper, and this is going to be a 5 to 10 minute scene where it's going to be a shock moment. There isn't a shock moment here to really go and follow the formula of what we've seen from 80s movies past. That is where I think this movie went under the radar because it really didn't have those big moments of shock factor. It didn't feel the need to. And that didn't attract audiences at the time where you have all these movies to compare it to that really did have that gimmicky character, the fast talking character, the token cop. Nothing in this movie has those elements. And it's a shame that a movie decides to go, again, like I said earlier, against the current to not go for that shock factor, not go for those cliches, but really trick the audience into something different on a subtle level. And it just works.
So a few little things that I just have to call out with this movie. For one, we get to spot an early Danny Trejo in the jail scene. I always love seeing him super early in his career in the 80s. Clu Gulager shows up. Lin Shaye shows up. This is a New Line Cinema feature, so of course Lin Shaye has to be in it. Most probably recognized in the last few years for the Insidious movies, right? So I just think that this really is a perfect 80s capsule. And even like I said, the pop culture thing. Watching this movie, it's like, oh, when they open up the fridge, there's Diet Shasta Cola in there in that old Shasta can. And my mind instantly went back to like when I was 6 years old, swiping Shasta cans out of my grandma's fridge, right? The posters in the music store, the album covers, like this really is kind of like a timestamp of 80s pop culture in both execution and theme, but also in aesthetic. The cars, the locations, the branding, it's all just so much fun for the 80s. I think there is a missed opportunity, though, and I've brought this up before on other shows, and I bring it up again. I think there's a missed opportunity that the dog, once it has the parasite in it, we should have had more time with the dog. Like if if he's going around as the stripper and as John Miller and as the police chief stealing cars, doing cocaine, picking up hookers, shooting machine guns, we should have had some more scenes of the dog exploring the excess of Los Angeles with this little parasite inside it, right? Like I want to see the dog driving a Ferrari and picking up hookers and doing blow off the hood. But I digress.
No matter what body switching movie that we have, they always have to end with animals. I swear to God, we're going to talk about it next week, I'm sure. But you know what?
I'm sure.
At some point, that's the most inconspicuous piece of going undercover is to taking over an animal. Because you know what? People are going to approach an animal. It's going to be easy to transition bodies. And I agree with you. I'd love to see a dog driving a Ferrari trying to pick up strippers or picking up hookers on the side of the street. So, but it's just a matter of the question that we'll probably get in comments of what kind of dog you want to see driving a Ferrari is going to be the main question.
Before we jump into the critics, I just think that, I've been putting a list in my mind of movies that really represent a city. And I feel that like we talked about when we did Angel, how Angel's a real representation of Los Angeles. I feel like The Hidden is too. Like The Hidden really just shows Los Angeles of that time, of that age. And I want to make a movie list of like Los Angeles movies. Of course, the penultimate would be To Live and Die in LA, and then subsequent would have this in there as well. Okay, so let's listen to what our critics said, and I got to tell you, bro, I was pleasantly surprised.
The next movie is named The Hidden, and this is an offbeat science fiction thriller that I frankly didn't expect would amount to very much, but it surprised me. It's a sleeper, a sort of a cross between Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Terminator, and it stars Michael Nouri as a cop on the trail of a madman who has committed a string of violent and senseless crimes. He looks like an ordinary criminal, but he doesn't act like one. There's something weird about him, and ordinary bullets just don't seem to stop him. Kyle MacLachlan, who was the star of Blue Velvet, turns up here as an FBI agent from out of town, but he almost seems to be as weird as the killer. The basic premise of The Hidden is sort of like The Terminator. A deadly killer has arrived here on Earth, and he's pursued by a character who seeks revenge. The movie takes this story and tells it like a police procedural with a certain amount of quiet, tongue-in-cheek humor as the alien learns the ways of big city cops. The story's interesting, the characters are offbeat and well acted, and I ended up by being surprised by how much I enjoyed The Hidden.
So I think it's really interesting the fact that like we talked about the pop culture significance of this film, and they mention it too, except you have to realize that this is a contemporary film for them, and the films that they're comparing it to are contemporary films of the time, where for us, we just have like this big bucket of nostalgia that we're putting all these things into. So for them to recognize the idea that this film is trying to echo back and attract fans of those films and put the ideas of those movies into this one, and that they're liking it, I found really surprising, because most of the time they will kind of put a film down as a blatant ripoff or carbon copy of Ghostbusters, of Star Wars, of E.T. Those like the three they love to say, oh, it's just another E.T. copy. It's just another Star Wars or Ghostbusters copy. Yeah, he just kind of exclaimed how much he liked the originality of this.
Well, I'm not surprised at all, because when we take movies of these, and we spoke about it earlier in the show, where we have so many of these movies pumped out in theaters, 5 to 6 movies a week. We have the high rise of the buddy cop movie, the high rise of sci-fi, everything that could be copycatted. And yes, there are familiarities with it. But again, as I spoke to earlier, it's going to be one of those that doesn't follow the same formula. We don't need every line to be memorable. We don't need, I think the great example is the dinner scene, where we have the family and McLaughlin sitting at the dinner table. And if it was any other movie, this would have been something drawn out where the partner gets to know the other partner in depth. And we do get a little sympathetic story between it, but we never really have anything too cliche. So I think that's what makes this really special, is the fact that it doesn't follow all that. It doesn't go against everything we see in the past. And that's its own special piece of it, is it is unique in that aspect.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day after I watched this. I watched it twice. Any chance I can watch this movie, I'll watch it. You know, I don't want to see a remake of this film. What I would love to see is a series, or a limited series that they put on HBO or Netflix. Like, let's say True Detective, but it's The Hidden, right? I kind of like the idea of doing something more longer form, because I feel that this story has legs and could be definitely transplanted into our contemporary time, but not necessarily just being a remake. Just like Westworld, right? Like, I don't think a Westworld movie remake would have been a good idea, but it worked as a series, at least for 2 seasons. They don't know what they did with the third one, but I feel like this is a licensed property that has legs. It just needs the right creative mind to do something with it. I would love to see more Hidden universe out there. You know, it did get a sequel, which isn't great. I pretend it doesn't exist, but I think there's enough foundation in this one to actually be good in modern times. So, hey, Roger seemed to like it. What does Gene say?
And I did too. I was delighted because, first of all, I had sort of said on this show a couple of months ago that I was tired of slimy creatures and glop being thrown at people. Well, there's a very slimy creature in this film.
Yes, and lots of glop.
Yeah, and it's handled in a scene that's really gross in the first instance that we see it. And even the way it was handled, even the gloppy scene, if you will, was handled well. I sat there, I watched, I was not grossed out, and then I was enthralled. This Kyle MacLachlan from Blue Velvet is an absolute discovery. He's a wonderful actor. Michael Nouri, who I thought was so inappropriate for Flashdance, I couldn't believe him as a boyfriend, is credible as the cop. This is a very well-written film, very well directed. Congratulations all around.
The Kyle MacLachlan performance reminded me a little bit of Jeff Bridges in Starman. They both have the same role, which is an alien from outer space inhabiting a human body and not being completely comfortable with it.
And can't let us know that right away.
And can't let us know that. Now, he takes a different approach than Starman did, but it's also an interesting approach, and it was a surprisingly good movie.
Very good.
I'm speechless, dude. I could not believe that. I'm happy for it. I love it. I think it's amazing. I will only grade him on this episode and on this review and critique. But once again, I got to just throw it out there. It's like, how could he feel that way about this and not feel the same way about Fright Night? How could he feel the same way about this and not feel the same way about The Thing? I get what he was talking about with, let's say, I don't like too much violence and gore and glop and body horror, right? He didn't. But it's something that we've been talking about so far, that this film, it incorporates it in a way that it adds to the story, and it's not trying to be the story. It's not trying to build a story around the gore, the body horror, the dismemberment, the glop, as they say. It's just a part of the story that leads to something bigger, but the chemistry, the humor, and the quirkiness makes it all work. So again, like it's credit to them for recognizing it, but I think it's more credit for the Hidden of being able to make a film, like I said, for all audiences.
So I think glop should be added to the SISKEL dictionary on this episode because I absolutely love it.
Right.
But I think they're absolutely right. And I think this is where, if I were to get in Gene's head, we don't focus on that. We get moments of the hospital scene with Boyette, but we don't have the film focus on the gruesomeness of it. And again, that we go into this wants to be something different. We don't have to focus on the grossness of violence. I mean, we have some flatulence in a restaurant, and that's as far as it's going to go, right? So this is where I think Gene really did appreciate it. We could have easily had the filmmakers take that hospital scene in the beginning and see every detail of how this alien infests a body. We can see body parts stretch. We can have this prolonged for 5-10 minutes. But we don't get that. We get the idea. It doesn't insult the audience saying, you know what? We have this vision, but we're going to handhold you through the gruesomeness to make sure we drill home what this alien is, what the potential danger is. The danger isn't the creature. It's what its actions are once it is in a human host. And I think that's where these two are on the same page, is we don't need the idea of a creature. We need the idea of what it's capable of. And we see that the entire runtime. And if it was, again, any other filmmaker, we would have amplified the shock moments, the gruesome, the glops, whatever it may be. We don't get that here. And this is what this kind of movie stands by itself on, is it doesn't go with normal Hollywood, if I should say.
Well, I think a lot of it, too, is budget, because it does the Jaws thing, right? It's like they have prosthetics, they have some really good practical effects for the time and for the budget, but they know they can't build a movie on that because there's not enough money and there's not enough time, there's not enough people. So a lot of the visceral moments of horror, terror, and let's say body horror and glop are really off screen. Like you'll see like the slug start to come out of the dude's mouth and then it'll cut to like a reaction shot, but the sound effect. So your mind does the work for you. Just like the alien in the first Alien and just like Jaws in Jaws, where it's like, there's a shark, it's swimming, you see its POV, but you don't see too much of the shark because it was a bad shark, right? But they made it work with the filmmaking, and I feel that this film does the very same thing where, like the cut off ear in Reservoir Dogs, you don't see the ear getting cut off, but you feel it because of the way it's shot. That's how you feel with some of the body transformations and transfers of the parasite in this film. You don't see it, but you hear the and cuts away to like a horror, and it works. It just works. It's clever filmmaking. Dude, I gotta tell you, how many Fs have I been giving my guy Gene lately? Like a lot of Fs. Like I went back and listened to a couple episodes a while ago from like a year ago, and it's Fs and Fs. And it's not that I'm like a hater on Gene. I think that when he's right, he's right. I think too many times he's just a contrarian to be a contrarian, or he's focusing on the wrong thing. But then a review comes out like this where it's like, I can't disagree with him, and he likes a movie I like, and he's giving good reasons for it, you know? So I can forgive the fact that he's being a hypocrite compared to other movies that he's reviewed, and just focus on this one review, and this one review gets an A in my book. I think it's solid.
Yeah, I would get that. And I think this is a lesson to be learned. And even now with critics, filmmakers, et cetera, that the more the budget, the more the problems is we don't go back to simplistic storytelling. And even if you have an alien sci-fi and buddy cop movie, it doesn't have to be all out there. This movie is a prime example of keeping that budget small and keeping ideas big, of how to drive characters through the idea. And I think Gene and Roger both get that. And this one, I'm not going to give Roger a perfect score here, even though I love where he's going with it. I love the fact he loved the movie. I love the fact that Gene loved the movie. But I have higher standards for Roger because he's a sci-fi guy. He's the one that really can tear apart a sci-fi with big ideas. And we've seen it from previous episodes that he needs a big idea. And I think when it comes to how he presents this movie, I love the fact he's excited about it, but I hate the fact that Gene was more excited about it when Roger's the sci-fi guy. So I think this one should have been a primary driver for Roger to go over some really key moments for what made this movie so special, what steered this movie away from everything else coming out in the box office. This movie, again, went under the radar. And these two were put up on a pedestal to advertise this movie. And people went to Roger and Gene to say why we should see this movie. And other than we liked it, I needed more. So to me, it's a good review. It's a basic review, but it didn't stand out against other reviews of that episode to say, this is where I'm going to spend my money. This is where I'm going to really focus my time on. So to me, it's a miss. I'm going to give him 3 stars on it because it's solid, but it's so elementary on the why.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that he definitely gave Kyle MacLachlan his flowers for this one, you know, because they infamously hated Dune and everything about it. Blue Velvet was a split for them, but, you know, Kyle MacLachlan in this film, reaching them the way he did, and really just kind of like repeating this performance as Dale Cooper in Twin Peaks, just with a little bit more humanity. Like, this is where he kind of like found who he was, right? Because, I mean, I like David Lynch's Dune, and I like Kyle MacLachlan in it, but I think I just like it more as a package, not for one specific thing. And Kyle MacLachlan doesn't really have a lot to do in that, you know, other than be a set piece to promote all the set pieces around him. Blue Velvet's a different story. Like, Blue Velvet, he has to like run that movie. But I think he's getting extra attention in this episode because they both like the movie. Therefore, Kyle MacLachlan can get more promotion from both of them because the movie is up to standard for them. And I kind of dig that.
I like MacLachlan in this. I like the call out of it, but I don't think he was the focal point of the movie because the way his performance goes is not a bad performance, but it's all in the eyes. It's all in the jaw structure. His lines are delivered, structured. It's not a bad performance. It fits the motives of the character, but I don't think it was a standout performance to be a call out on the show because everybody else does a solid job here. There's everybody acting around MacLachlan on how we interact with this character, how we're going to do an action scene with this character. It's a more challenging role for everybody else around him versus him. So I don't think it's a bad performance at all. I want to be clear. But I think the more challenging roles are outside of his performance of how to interact with him versus just him not blinking or staring straight into the camera or off camera and having no emotion. that to me, and I'll probably get pushback, but I don't think that is a challenging part of this movie. It's how we hold all the other characters straight-faced and stick to our character development throughout the journey while he stays the same. So his motivation is to stay the same the entire movie because he's that straight-faced alien that has a singular mission, is to take this guy down. Everybody else has to learn from him, has to grow. He doesn't have that motives in this movie. So I appreciate Roger calling him out, but there are a bigger call outs here other than McLaughlin.
Yeah, Michael Nouri, like I said, Michael Nouri is so good in this movie, and it made me really think, like, okay, I like William Peterson in To Live and Die in L.A., I like him in Manhunter, but after seeing Nouri's performance over and over again in this movie, it's like, dude, I want to see him in those roles. It's like, I like William Peterson, but I feel like he is doing what I wanted William Peterson to do in those movies, and that was bring more to that cop role, and he just looks and feels like a lived-in cop. I think that William Peterson's just too pretty sometimes. Like, he's just a pretty dude with a pretty silver beard, right? And like, sometimes I feel he's just too good looking for the role he's playing. Where Michael Nouri, he's got like this ruggedness to him where it's like, okay, I would totally see him as a cop, especially like a robbery homicide cop, right? Anyway, I can stop promoting my love of Michael Nouri right now and move on with the show. Okay, well, I'm so glad you like this movie. And, you know, here's the thing. Lots of people who have found this movie over the years like it. It's got like a 7.1 on IMDb. It's got high audience scores pretty much everywhere. It's still, I'd say, underseen and still underrated, but the people in the know like it and love it, and I think that's great. I'm going to say that because we are going to have a conversation about it later in another episode of what scores actually mean to the movie, in my opinion. But like I said, we'll save that for later. So anyway, now that we are moving on with our spooky horror week, or month, I should say, we had Scream last week. We got The Hidden this week. So next week, Justin is bringing the 1998 film Fallen, starring Denzel Washington. A serial killer, maybe more, executed, and we see his shadows and echoes go through other people. We'll get to that next week. But anyway, that's next week's episode. So please like, review, rate, subscribe. Please give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us a good review on YouTube. Follow our channel. Leave comments. Leave suggestions. I've got a few people who've reached out that have suggestions for us that we need to put on the list. And a very long-time listener who actually promotes our show on other websites and other social medias that would love to be a guest sometime next year. So we'll reach out to him and make his wish come true, because I really think he might be our longest fan of Back to the Balcony since episode 1. So yeah, we'll get that out there for sure. Anyway, you can find me, Antonio, over at thecultworthy.com. You can find my co-host Justin Henson over at
themoviewire.com.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week.